Hello, welcome back to Little Literati. This is part 2 of my literary tabletop game segment. And this part is going to focus on storytelling games. So the last segment focused on games that actually connect to a specific work of literature. And these ones you pretty much get to make your own. There is a slight exception. I'll get to that one at the end because it's kind of in the back. This is Once Upon a Time. This is a storytelling card game, and in this one you get to make your own fairy tales. And my husband and I actually just played this a couple of days ago. Again, I got this a couple of years ago for Christmas, and in this game you are each given an ending card that you're trying to work towards, and then you're also given story element cards. And the way you play is one of you gets to be the storyteller, and you try to tell a story that connects your cards together in a cohesive, coherent story. And if you get stuck, or if somebody else has a card that matches what you've just mentioned, then they can interrupt you and then they get to control of the story. And you can play with as few as 2 people, you can play with as many people as you can get together, and it's a lot of fun. And it's mostly fun just to kind of make your own stories. It's not so much about who beats whom, it's really fun to play together and write a story together that's a fairy tale. And then this game also has several expansions that I own as well. This has Seafaring Tales, which of course all about oceans and ships, and pirates. It has Enchanting Tales, which are elements from actual fairy tales like Cinderella, Snow White, things like that. It has Knightly Tales, so this is a lot more like chivalry, the knights, of course, obviously, dragons, elements like that. Animal Tales, so probably a lot more like fables type fairy tale stories. And then there's also another one that I don't have yet that just came out, is Fairy Tales. So it's going to have a lot more elf sprites, things like that in those. So this is pretty fun and pretty much low stress. It's kind of, it can be kind of stressful trying to figure out your story, but really, as long as you're all open to letting people figure out what they want to do with their story, it's really a lot of fun. So I really like Once Upon a Time, and we're actually looking forward to playing this a lot more as a family because it's really a lot of fun, and it's fun to kind of make your own stories. In a similar vein, and actually by the same company, is Gloom, which is really dark and twisted and a lot of fun to play. We've played this for several years now, which is why the box is looking a little ratty. And in this game, you each pick a family that you are the god of, pretty much. And your goal is to kill off all of your characters. But first, you want to make their lives as miserable as possible. Because if your life is miserable here on Earth, then of course your reward is great in heaven, right? So the idea is you make your characters' lives hell, while simultaneously trying to make your opponent's family members happy and have good things happen to them. And the fun, unique part of this game is that the cards are all clear. So you have your characters for each family, and then you have certain things that happen to them, and you draw them and play them on your characters. And then once they get negative points, then you can kill them off with death cards. So these cards all kind of stack on top of each other. So you could have somebody was beaten by beggars, and you tried to tell the story of how this character got into a situation where they were beaten by beggars. And then on the next player's turn, who is trying to make your card members happy, then you could say they were diverted by drink. And so the happy plus points cover up and completely overcome the negative points that you've already put on your character. So it's really a fun kind of battle of who can get down the cards before and kill off their characters before someone else makes them happy again, because you can have, we had one game where there was like 15 cards on this one character because we were trying desperately to make him so that he could not win the game. But it's really a fun, twisted, dark game. But again, it's really a lot of fun trying to tell the story of how in one point your character can be menaced by mice and then in the next turn be knighted by the queen. And how does that happen? How are the two scenarios connected? So this game says that it can last for, I think it says like 20 minutes or something like that. I think we rarely get a game to last less than a full hour just because we're telling the story and making up these outlandish scenarios for our characters, but it's a lot of fun. And there are several expansions that we've got. I gave these all to my husband for Christmas one year, so his stocking was like bulging with all these different card games. So there's Unhappy Homes, Unwelcome Guests, Unfortunate Expeditions, and Unquiet Dead. And we've actually not gotten around to the last two. We just pulled the new families, because each new expansion will come with a new family that you can add except for the Unquiet Dead. We just pretty much pulled the new family out. We haven't really gotten around to playing with Expeditions yet, or the Unquiet Dead, but eventually we'll get around to that. There's also kind of expansion. It's also a standalone game, which is Fairy Tale Gloom. And we haven't played this one either, which is kind of shocking. But this one, you get to mix together your different fairy tales. So you try to make terrible things happen to the main characters, and it all just plays together. So I don't know exactly how we'll react to this one. I gave this to him a while ago and we still haven't played it, so I really need to pull this out and actually make us play it because I thought it was fun. That's why I got it for him. But anyway, Fairy Tale Gloom, and it seems like it might connect, or kind of in my mind anyway, like kind of have both elements of the two different games, the fairy tales and the really dark, twisty, gothic feel of Gloom. So I think that'll be really a fun addition to our family game. Similarly to, especially the Once Upon a Time games, these are kid type versions, and these are Telltale by Blue Orange Games. They're the same ones who did Spot It. And these are round cards that don't have any text on them. They are just pictures. And so there are a couple different ways you can play, and there's an instruction manual that tells you some different ideas of how you can play with these cards. But both double sides with different pictures on each side. And so you can make whatever story you want. You could divvy out cards and then have them try to make a story with the cards they're given, similarly to Once Upon a Time. We've played this with our kids a couple of times, and they really enjoy looking at the pictures and trying to figure out how to tell a story. So that's Telltale, and then they also have a fairy tale version, which is also a lot of fun. And it's, of course, the same thing, just with more fairy tale type pictures on them instead of just kind of generic, everyday pictures. So we've got, a prince and princess dancing, and pitchfork wielding commoners, and witches and monsters, and it's kind of fun. So since Once Upon a Time is still probably a little advanced for our kids because it's a little more involved with the different elements and the way you interrupt the storyteller and everything, we're wanting to start up again with playing games like this, the Telltale, so that they can just make whatever stories they want, however they want, and just have kind of a lot of general hilarity in our home connected to books, which is a lot of fun. And especially since our kids in the summer are going to be writing their own books again this summer, I thought this might be a fun kind of teaser to get their brains flowing and getting ideas pumping so that they can be ready for that. This last game is kind of the exception to this segment's games. It is connected, obviously, to Robin Hood, but it didn't seem quite to fit with the games that I mentioned in the first part of this. But this is Sheriff of Nottingham, and in this, you have to have at least 3 players, and you each take a turn being the sheriff. And you're trying to bluff your way past the Sheriff of Nottingham into Nottingham with your contraband. So what you do is you each have a little bag, and there are different cards. So there are apples, but there are also like spiced apples or something like that, fancy apples. And you are allowed to take in your regular goods, but you're not supposed to take in contraband. And so what you do is you put whatever you want in your bag, you have to claim the number of cards you put in. So even if you put in 3 fancy apples and 2 regular apples, you still have to claim 5 apples. So you tell whoever is being the sheriff that I'm bringing in 5 bushels of apples because I'm going to be making this wonderful pie for the king, and I know how much he loves my apple pie. And so he can decide to either let you pass because he believes you, or you can try to bribe him, or if none of that works, then he can inspect your bag. If he inspects your bag and you have contraband in it, you have to pay a fine. If he inspects your bag and you don't have contraband, he owes you the same value of money for those coins, for those goods. So it's kind of a storytelling, bluffing game, also kind of connected to a specific work of literature, so it kind of felt like it fit more into this segment. But it's really fun. We played it when my brother and his girlfriend were here last summer, and it was a lot of fun because you get to lie straight to people's faces, or are you telling the truth this time? And so you each take 2 turns being the sheriff, and you get to kind of see different people's strategies. And my brother is sneaky. He's kind of scary sneaky because I could never tell if he was lying. And I grew up with him. Like, I should know. I'm his big sister, but could not tell when that kid was lying. Anyway, so those are our storytelling games. And I know there are games that I own that I haven't played yet, and there are some games that I've seen on the internet that I will eventually own, but obviously I haven't played those ones either. So once I get those played and I kind of know how we like them, then I can do a 3rd or maybe even a 4th segment to this literary game thing. But these are the ones that we have played and that we really enjoy, and these are the ones that you can make your own stories with. So anyway, if you've ever played these, let us know what you thought about those. If you haven't and you think these look fun, I'll add the links to the description below where you can find your own versions of these games because they are a lot of fun. So anyway, in the meantime, tell stories, read stories, have a lot of fun, and read amazing books.